All right, guys, today we are going to be adding decimals. So this is going to hopefully be pretty simple for you. The only thing is when we do get down to solving them just using the standard algorithm, it's really important that we line them up. For this first problem, all of these letters, all we're doing is they're just telling me how to add this up. So if I were to look at this, okay, number one, it says I have 1/10 plus 2/10. Well, what does 1 plus 2 equal? It equals 3. So that means that I have 3. Well, my place value, my label, is the same, so it's going to be tenths. So I have 3/10. How do I write 3/10 in decimal form? If you're not sure, you can grab your place value chart out, and you should be writing 3/10 as decimal point and then 3. Okay. Moving here, I have 14/10 plus 9/10. Well, I have tenths, that is correct. But what is 14 plus 9? Okay. If you say 23, that is correct. So I have 23/10. But if you look over here, it says that I've got some ones and I've got some tenths. If I were to place that on my place value chart, if I were to place 23/10 on my place value chart, how many ones do I have? I've got 2. How many tenths do I have? I have 3. So that is why we have to be careful, because even though we have 23/10, we can't fit that 23 in one place value. We have to make sure that we can move it and basically regroup it and put it into the next place value column. So I've got 2 ones and 3/10, and if you saw my place value chart, how you write that in decimal form is 2 and 3/10. Okay. So here, this one's another pretty simple one. I've got 1/100th plus 2/100th. Okay, 100th, perfect. 1 plus 2 is 3. If I have 3/100ths, if I were to put that 3/100ths in my place value chart, well, take a look at that. But what do I need in that tenths column? I need a 0. So I'm going to place that 0, and when I write it, it's going to be 0.03. That is how I would write 3/100ths. Okay. Now, in some of these, if they get a little bit bigger and you're like, okay, well, I need to write out 27 plus 5, that is completely fine. So I've got hundredths, which is perfect. 27 plus 5. Okay. If you said 32, that is correct. It's 32 hundredths. Okay. Well, if I were to put 32 hundredths, that means that that 2 is going to be in the hundredths column and that 3 is going to be in the tenths column. So if you heard exactly what I said, the 2 is going to be in the hundredths, the 3 is going to be in the tenths, and to write that in place value form, you guys can think about it. Here's my decimal. What do I have in my tenths column? A 3. What do I have in my hundredths column? A 2. And so that is how you write that in place value form, or sorry, decimal form. Okay, oh, here's another easy one. Thousandths. 1 plus 2 is, perfect, 3. I've got 3 thousandths, and how do I write that in place value form, or in, sorry, decimal form? If you get your place value chart out and you put that 3 in the thousandths column, you have to add those zeros in the hundredths and the tenths. This is how you write it in decimal form, okay? Now I've got thousandths and thousandths. All right, we're good here. So if I have 35 thousandths, 35 thousandths plus 8. So 35 plus 8 is going to give me 43 thousandths. Okay, well, I'm going to write 43 thousandths. That 3 is going to go in the thousandths. The 4 is going to go in the hundredths. And then I've got my tenths. So if I were to look at this, I have 4 hundredths, 3 thousandths, and then that's how I'm going to write it in decimal form. So I'm going to have 4 hundredths, 3 thousandths, and then I write it as 43 thousandths. This 0 is extremely important. Oops, you guys can't see it. That 0 is extremely important, so you need to make sure that we have that. Okay, so let's take a look at these last 3, and then we're going to move on to some fun standard algorithm. I have 6/10 plus 3 thousandths. Now, 6/10 plus 3 thousandths, I've got 2 different labels here. So I probably need to turn this 6/10. I'm going to turn this into thousandths. So if I am to write 6/10 on my place value chart, but I want it to be in thousandths, okay, I'm going to have 600 thousandths. That is why I wrote those extra 2 zeros to show me that I have thousandths. So this actually is saying 600 thousandths. So now I can add 600 and 600 thousandths plus 3,000. So 600 plus 3 is 603 thousandths. How do I write it in decimal form? Well, you guys can have that 600 and then you add that 3. Okay. Oh, goodness. 7 ones and 2 tenths plus 4 tenths. I would turn this all into tenths. So if I were to put this on my place value chart, this is showing me that I have 7 ones and 2 tenths. How many tenths do I actually have? Well, if I took out that decimal point and just look at my tenths, I've got 72 tenths. So I can change this to 72 tenths. Okay, 72 tenths plus 4 tenths. So now it's easy. 72 plus 4 is going to be 76 tenths. And how would I write 76 tenths in place value in decimal form? Well, that 6 is going to be in the tenths, and then that 7 would be in the ones column. So that is how you would write it in decimal form, 7.6 or 7 6/10. Okay. This last one, let's see here. I've got 2 thousandths plus 9 ones and 5 thousandths. So if I were to look at this in place value form, if I'm going to put 2 thousandths on my place value chart, actually, let me work this backwards. Let's put this 9 ones and 5 thousandths. Okay. This one's a little bit tricky because it's not like I can do I can't add something or just say, okay, well, I can move this over and it would work. It's not going to. If I were to take out this decimal and ignore your place value chart except for the thousandths, if I were to read this going across, I have 9,005 thousandths. So on here, I can actually cross this out and I can say I have 9,005 thousandths. Okay. If I were to add this 9,002 thousandths plus 9,005 thousandths, I would have 9,007 thousandths. How would I write that in decimal form? Well, if you take a look at your place value chart, it would be 9 and 7 thousandths. Okay. So when you get to these letters, this is going to be a lot easier because you are just going to be adding things up. Okay. Like I said at the beginning, it's really important that you line up the decimals. That is the most important. You're not lining up the numbers, you are lining up the decimals. So here I'm going to put 3 tenths and I'm going to add 82 hundredths. So I'm going to add the 0 here. Here's my 82, and then I can solve it, okay? If you notice, there's nothing in that tenths column right there. You can add that 0 because it doesn't change the value so that you have something to add this to. So now I can do 0 plus 2 is 2. 8 plus 3 or 3 plus 8 is 11. I need to regroup because remember, these are still place values. You can only have one digit in that place value. So now I've got 1 plus 0 is 1, and all you do is you just carry that decimal down. That decimal doesn't move. You don't need to do anything with it. You just carry it down. So this answer is 1 and 12 hundredths. Okay. Letter B is pretty nice. It's got the 3 digits with the decimal. So I'm going to write 1 and 3 hundredths. I'm going to add 8 hundredths. That's pretty simple, okay? 3 plus 8, well, that's 11. I'm going to regroup my 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. Okay, don't need to regroup anything. I'm just going to automatically, here's my decimal. I'm just going to add that decimal before I go and finish my problem of 1 plus 1 is 1. So this answer is 1 and 11 hundredths. Okay. Letter C, I've got 7 and 3 tenths. I'm going to add 2 and 8 tenths, pretty simple. 3 plus 8 is 11, so I'm going to put my 1, regroup that 1. But before I do anything, I'm going to make sure that I add that decimal because if you do not add your decimal, you are going to change the value. So it's really important, and it's got to stay right there. So then I have 7 plus 2 would be 9, plus 1 is 10. And of course, you guys know how to write 10. It's just a 1 and a 0. So this answer is 10 and 1/10. Letter D, 57 and 300ths plus 2 and 800ths. Perfect, it lines up. Now, when you had your decimals, if you didn't have a 0 lined up over here, you could add 1. Over here, you don't really need to because this would just be like adding 57 plus 2, and you guys would never have to add that 0. You just kind of pretend nothing is there. So 3 plus 8 is 11. Did a lot of 3 plus 8s on this page. I'm going to regroup my 1. 0 plus 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. I'm going to not forget my decimal. 7 plus 2 is 9. And then, of course, this 5 plus basically nothing is 5. So your answer is 59 and 11/100. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide and work on the next page.